their design, review, and approvals by the state DOT. And also, even when they get the final approvals, it has been represented that it's an estimated 5-month lead time to get the traffic signal poles. So that the applicant, Stewart's, is requesting a 1-year extension. That is, that they can get a temporary approval now, but the temporary certificate of occupancy, I'm sorry, now, but asking for a delay with respect to installing those improvements for up to 1 year in order for it to go through the process, and that would allow them to open up their store. The second item deals with Stewart's offering to the village the Oliver home on the property, either by way of fee or easement at the option of the village. And the area for that donation is set forth on the plans. So those are the two aspects. I think it's probably appropriate, Raquel, if Stewart's makes their presentation first, which is normally how we proceed with these things.
Right. And Rick, just so I understand, the issues are somewhat separate. I mean, we can make a resolution for the extension or the waiver of the traffic light within the year. Is that separate from the home? I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's nothing that specifically ties it.
Okay.
Obviously, Stewart's is trying to be a good neighbor with respect to this when it found out from the village.
The history associated.
The history, because as you may recall, in the initial resolution of approval for this project, that building was supposed to be raised. And so rather than do that, they are offering to go ahead and make it possible for it either to continue as a home, if that's what the village wants after they receive the donation, or to make it into a park or something else. That would be up to the village. But they are separate from a purely legal point of view. They haven't been tied to one another. Stewart's has not said, well, give me the extension, or I'm not going to give you the Oliver home. They have not done that.
Understood.
And to be clear, we're not doing that.
Okay.
Just the time. I mean, obviously the timing seems a little. Timing doesn't look the best necessarily, but the village initially approached us in May about retaining the Oliver home, and we've been, dealing with DOT since about March. So, that just created one instance of making one application. Understood.
So, Rick, would you believe that they should present? I was looking at last week's meeting minutes, unfortunately, or last 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, I wasn't present, but it seems like we had punted this decision to today. But I am reviewing the resolution that was drafted. So, but if anyone on the board feels that they want to hear more, or if they didn't have a chance to review the memo prepared, just let me know.
Well, I read the what we received from Dr. Phil from Mazer, and then of course Rick's resolution, and I personally don't see any reason why we shouldn't go along with what Mazer is saying. They're the experts. They're saying there's not going to be any major impact. They're going to go ahead with all of the other infrastructure improvements, including the left turn lane, and then Stewart's would only get a temporary CO that would expire in August of 2021. So this is nothing that Stewart's has caused, and I think we should really work with them and grant them what Mazer and others are saying that we should do. As Rick said, they've been a very good neighbor.
The one thing I will bring up for everybody is that in the initial resolution of approval, which was back in August of 2019, there was no requirement with respect to tying the improvements to the CO. That came up and was asked for in the amended resolution. So initially they were approved and there wasn't that tie-in. And the board could take that either because you were there at the time or if not, as a indication that since they gave them a negative declaration without it being tied, that in fact there did not seem to be a significant adverse environmental impact to do it, although on a long-term basis that it ought to be in place for this business.
Understood. Cody, Noel, do you guys have any comments or concerns before we take a look at the resolution?
No, not really. I mean, I agree with the sort of general sentiments that everyone seems to be talking about. Like they've been really good about the process. I think I agree with the thing about Mazer, and yeah, I think we should. There's no reason we shouldn't grant it for them.
Noel?
Yep, I agree. with
All
that.
right.
Well, Raquel, just before you go to the resolution and read the specific conditions or ask me to read them or somebody else to read them, however you want to do it, which is what normally happens at this point, is we need to reaffirm seeker then. So I think that it would be appropriate if someone made a motion to reaffirm the seeker negative declaration for this application as it has been revised.
I make the motion to go ahead and affirm seeker.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Oh, are we going to do a roll call?
Yeah, Cody?
Sorry. Aye.
Noel?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
And I say aye as well.
So that.
So, Rick, should I go ahead or would you like to go ahead? I'm trying to just find the exact page where the specific conditions are listed as drafted in the resolution.
Yeah, if you, the way you normally do it is there's 7 specific conditions.
All right.
And so you would they start on page 6.
Okay. All right.
And
So
you would simply read them one at a time. And if anybody has any problems with them, they'll speak up at the time that you start reading them and they'll ask for something to be changed.
okay. So I will go through the specific conditions as listed in the drafted resolution. Prior to the signing of the amended plans, the applicant shall, if not previously submitted, submit proof to the building department of filing with the Ulster County Clerk of a stormwater maintenance easement in such form as is acceptable to the village planning board attorney in favor of the village and binding on all subsequent landowners served by the stormwater management facility that provides for the village's access to the facility for purpose of inspecting, correcting, and maintaining the stormwater facilities. Number 2, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the New York State Department of Transportation must approve all proposed curb cuts within its jurisdiction. Item 3, the applicant and the village shall continue to work with the New York State Department of Transportation to ensure the installation of a traffic signal at New York State Route 32 and Henry W. Dubois Drive with the associated proposed pedestrian crossings at the earliest opportunity. No permanent certificate of occupancy, shall be issued until the traffic signal and associated proposed pedestrian crossings have been installed. A temporary certificate of occupancy may be issued by the building inspector prior to the installation of the traffic signal and associated proposed pedestrian crossings, but shall expire on August 3rd, 2021, unless on or before that date, the said traffic signal and pedestrian crossings have been installed. This August 3rd, 2021 deadline may be extended further by the planning board for good cause shown. Item 4, prior to the issuance of a permanent certificate of occupancy, the existing sidewalk along both New York State Route 32 and Henry W. frontages shall be upgraded and shall ensure ADA compliance. Number 5, as required by the Village Code 212.25.7b, only white lights shall be used to illuminate the Stewart's Shop sign, and all external sources of illumination of the sign must be hidden from view by shrubbery or other means. Item 6, no encroachments by one property owner to another that are shown on the plan or otherwise are being authorized or approved by this resolution. And finally, item 7, within 60 days after the date of this approval, the applicant shall, at the option of the village, prepare either a deed or easement granting fee or easement rights respectively to the village to that 0.06 acre portion of the subject property as shown on the plans approved herein upon which exists a home of historical significance, all at no cost to the village. The form of the deed or easement shall be acceptable to the attorney for the village. If it is determined that a formal subdivision of the property is required, the applicant shall cooperate with the village in accomplishing such subdivision. Does anyone have any questions or concerns about these 7 items, the conditions listed?
Just so I understand condition 7, the village will initiate to stewards the request, or maybe that's a question for Bill Murray or Rick. Are you going to review the proposed lot? What's the mechanism for achieving that?
Right. The reason that this is Rick. The reason that I framed it as I did was because, to my knowledge, it still hasn't been solidified as to exactly how the village wants to deal with this. But they would be doing so within the next 60 days. Assuming that they want a deed to this, which is the last I've heard, then they would ask you to prepare a deed for that. There would need to be a survey of that parcel and a deed given over, and then the village would go ahead and file that deed. If for some reason the clerk said, well, you can't have a subdivision except unless you get a subdivision approval from the planning board, that doesn't apply if the purpose for the subdivision is a public purpose. But if it's a private purpose, then it would have to have subdivision approval from the planning board. So a lot depends upon what the village's intent is, whether it's to sell it to someone in order for that person to go ahead and restore it at their cost and keep the home, or it was going to be taken over and turned into a museum or a park area or whatever. So its ultimate use, which is going to be determined by the Board of Trustees, will determine whether or not a subdivision approval is required by the planning board. So that's why there's flexibility here. And I thought 60 days was a reasonable time for the village to make that determination. But I'd appreciate any input from Bill if he's on the line.
Yeah, I'm here, Rick. I don't think in any scenario it should hold up stewards in any way. There's some uncertainty where this is going because we just put this together over the last couple of weeks, and I'm not sure what the response has been from the public as of yet. But I
Would
think
you like to have more time, Bill, like more than 60 days for the Board of Trustees to make that?
I would definitely like more time. Yes, because it's the middle of the summer now. We're in the middle of a pandemic. It may take a little time to settle this out and find an appropriate buyer, if you will, or if we don't find a buyer, the steps that we'll need to take to secure the property.
Chuck, how long before this becomes an issue for you as far as developing the parcel?
With the relocation of the stormwater and the concurrence by Blue and is it Rich Ruth? Is that the village engineer, Rich Ruth?
Yeah.
I think that's who's being used. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is it really doesn't. So we're fine for a while.
Okay. I think there should be some deadline, so it doesn't go out for 16 years or something like that, and sort of memories fade as to why we're doing this in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, 60 or 100 days or 120 days, either is good with me. I mean, I think that gives the village adequate time, but does put, I have the survey, I could have the description. I mean, the mechanisms for either easement or deed on my end could occur fairly quickly. So that part, it's more the village issuing notice to stewards and how they want to receive it.
So Bill, do you think that 4 months is all right, or you think 6 months is more appropriate for you?
Of course, time is everything. So I'm going to select 6 months.
All right,
Because
that
it
doesn't
could be-
seem
it
to
could be
like it's going to
resolved.
be a problem for Chuck.
Right. So that's terrific. And I something may resolve itself very soon. We just don't know. And I haven't heard anything to prevent me from asking for 6 months.
All right, why don't we change the language then in specific condition number 7 to say within 6 months after the date of this approval.
Yep.
Now, Rick, can someone motion to approve the resolution with that, assuming that change is made for tonight?
Yeah, what you would do is typically it would be a motion to say, I approve the resolution as written with the modification as discussed.
All right. So can I do that myself, or does it have to come from someone else?
Yes, you can do that.
Okay, I'm sorry for all the questions. I'm used to just
No,
following.
no,
back.
that's fine. I'm here to help walk you through it.
Thank you. So I move to approve the resolution with the modification for item number 7 to extend it to a 6-month time frame. Is it
Second.
Second,
Okay, great. All in favor? Cody?
Aye.
Noel?
Aye.
Dennis?
aye.
All right, so I think that takes us through that item. So we'll get that modification made, Alana, and then I guess you'll send it to me if it needs to be signed.
Yeah, is
correct?
Raquel the one that would sign it because she was the chair when we approved it? Or,
Yes.
okay.
Okay.
Do you want me to do you want me to finalize it and send it to you, Alana?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you guys very much. Obviously, a lot of moving pieces and gyrations here, but I think we've all worked together through all of it. So thanks.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thanks, Chuck.
All right, so let me see that. I think that moves us to the next application, which was PB 2005 for 45 Elting Avenue. I believe this was a addition. Hold on, sorry, I'm just flipping back through. 1 second. Apologies, let's see. Just a second. All right, so there's an existing 2,206 square foot single family residence. And it's going to be renovated with 252 square feet of conditioned space, and a 647 square foot rear porch will be added. I believe that, Alana, based off of what you sent, this did not require attorney review. And the only thing that we were unclear, it's a type 2 action under SECRA, no referral to county. But we were trying to confirm if there was going to be an additional bedroom, I believe, in this renovation, because that would impact the number of parking spots required at
Yeah,
this.
so the only reason it doesn't have to go to county if they're
Okay.
not adding any additional bedrooms. And I didn't get the impression that they were, but we should definitely, I know Alan is here and he can probably confirm whether or not that's the case.
All right. Hi, Alan.
Yeah, that is the case. There's currently 3 bedrooms, and they're going to have 3 bedrooms, although in practicality, they'll be using 1 bedroom as a closet.
Okay. So, Alana, say that again for me. So that basically, that does mean that,
We don't have to send it to county because
okay,
the number of
that's the
bedrooms.
pre-existing non-conforming nature.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I guess in this case, does anybody have any questions or comments for Alan as it relates to this project? Nope. From what I'm seeing in these plans, it seems pretty straightforward to me. I'm comfortable with it. I think in terms of setting a public hearing, Alan, I don't know what the time frame is for the owners, but if we would like to set it for August 4th, we would need to have mailed and post signs by July 24th, which is just 3 days. So if you would like more time, we could also do it for August 18th. So just let us know what you feel more comfortable.
August 4th is plenty of time. Thanks. Yeah,
But you understand that the mailings and posting of the signs must be done by July 24th.
right. Yeah. no-
Otherwise, they can't have the public hearing on that night and it'll have to be postponed.
yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay, so I guess can I set a motion to set the public hearing for PB 2005 for our August 4th meeting?
So motion.
Perfect.
Okay, all in favor? Cody?
Aye.
Oh, Noel?
Aye.
Dennis, I think I heard you.
Aye.
Okay, great. So we'll see you on August 4th.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I guess the only other item would be, well, for administrative would be to approve the minutes for the last meeting, which I believe was July 7th. Alana added those to the Google Drive. So a motion to approve the meeting minutes as drafted.
So motion?
All in favor?
Second.
Oh, sorry. All in favor? Cody?
Aye.
Noel?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
All right. And then I guess if nothing else, I don't know if Bill, you have anything to report to us or, oh, Alana, did you want to touch base? Sorry, before that about the letter from Central Hudson. I saw that you had put something.
Yeah, I just got that letter in the mail where Central Hudson was essentially just asking to be involved in certain projects where there were easements.
Okay.
But it seemed like something that would normally go to a, sorry, my dog is freaking out. It seemed like something that would normally go to a planning board chair. So I don't know if anyone read it or anyone cares, but it's just there.
Okay.
I can weigh in a little bit on that.
Oh yeah, great.
It's a letter that they send to planning boards and towns and villages from time to time because they run into problems sometimes with the planning boards approving where driveways go that then interfere with their easements. It's not really a problem for the planning board. It's a problem for the applicant where then there's a dispute over whether or not the driveway, for instance, impacts adversely the easement rights, and then there's a battle between those two. So to try to work that out ahead of time, what they're asking is planning boards, whenever you have something where there may be an easement, that's not going to happen as much in the village as it does in towns. But you can ask an applicant, are there any easements on your property? And if there's a utility easement, you can ask them to go ahead and submit it. I can review it. You can contact the utility and tell them this is what we're doing, this is what we're planning, and the utility would have an opportunity to weigh into you as the planning board to say, yeah, that's fine, that's not a problem for us, or oh, that's a big problem, but if you move the driveway 15 feet one way, then it won't be a problem at all. So that's the whole purpose of it. They also talk about the regulations in that letter, I believe, and not only the easement, but the regulations. And I'm not sure what regulations they're referring to, so I may write back to Central Hudson and ask what regulations they're referencing so that we can all be on the same page.
Yeah, I just read through it briefly. That'd be helpful. It seems just like a courtesy. I don't know what our legal responsibility is in terms of verifying that there aren't issues, but yeah, that would be helpful.
Well, it's actually a very good question, Raquel, because the planning boards are not allowed to act as the enforcers of private agreements, such as easements between parties, right? So if somebody comes and says, wait a second, you can't build your house as high as you're proposing to build it because there's a deed restriction or an easement that says that you can't do that. The planning board isn't allowed to go ahead and say, oh, then we're not going to give them the right to do that, even though under the code they'd be able to. But it is sometimes very helpful to know what easements are there, because it may be simply better planning by the planning board when you're looking at a site plan. And if there's an easement, for instance, that goes right through the middle of a house and or a commercial building, and you're with knowledge of that, you're able to go ahead and move that and therefore not create a problem with that easement. That's better planning, and it's a better site plan that you'd be approving in the end. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
it's helpful to know about them, simply to aid you in determining what is a good, adequate site plan for the project. But it's not something that you're obligated or have to worry about, that somehow if you do something incorrectly that the village would have any liability. There would be none.
Okay. Thank you. Nice. So we'll hold on to this. Let's see, what else do we have? So I guess then this would just go. I don't know if Dawn is on, or if Bill, you have anything to share with us.
Sure. We'll be interviewing a candidate for the planning board tomorrow evening, and during our during our village board meeting. Just want to put out there that we still need people to join the planning board, so encourage friends and neighbors to be in contact with us so that we can fill the seats that are needing to be filled.
Bill, if I could ask, is that person being interviewed for the chairperson job as well, or that's still undecided by the mayor and the board of trustees?
That's undecided, but I don't believe the candidate's interested in being a chair.
Okay.
Okay.
I would just
I
say,
don't-
you didn't, I don't think there's anyone here for public comment, but just make sure. I haven't gotten anything in writing, but just like,
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was at the beginning.
yeah, no worries.
Do we have anybody watching who has any public comments? You can type them in on the YouTube page.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody, but just want to make sure.
All right. So am I missing anything, or can I move to close the July 21st, 2020 meeting at 7:35?
Move to close.
So motion.
Second.
All in favor? Cody?
Aye.
Noel?
Aye.
Dennis?
Aye.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you,
That
Raquel.
wasn't as scary as I thought.
Okay. Great job, Raquel.
Thank
Great
you,
job. And
Dennis.
of course, Alana and Rick, thanks very much.
Yeah,
no
thank you for
problem.
everything, guys. So
All right.
Alana, our next meeting is in 2 weeks. Is that
Yes, it's
All
on
August 4th? Yes. Or
Yes,
the-
August 4th, yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. Thank you, guys.
no problem.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Care.
Have a good night.